Hello, it's Tracy Dix here again from Wyrd Learning, and here I am on day 41 of my conversion card challenge. So it's 50 days of James Wedmore's powerful language patterns that convert, and I'm seeing how well these language patterns might be adaptable or not to academic writing. I think it's raised some quite interesting discussions so far, and I hope you agree. Do feel free to leave me comments and let me know if it's been helpful to you and what else you might like to hear about. That would really help us to support you better. So, day 41, just agree. You may have heard the phrase, what you resist persists, right? Well, that's because when you create a fighting energy, it's natural to create a diametrically opposed defense energy. What you push pushes back. And when it comes to your readers, they will have pushback and objections as well. The best thing you can do is call out their pushback, agree, and move forward. Formula. Call out the objection, concern, or rebuttal. 2. Agree. I agree, or that makes sense. 3. And blank. Example in action. You may just be sitting there thinking, I can't launch my program yet. My list is so small. And if that is you, yes, I agree. The size of your list can limit the amount of sales you make, and it can also open up opportunities for things people with a big list can't do, like one-on-one personal outreach, which means you can actually see higher conversion rates with a smaller list than with a larger one. So there's several things here, and the first thing I'd like to engage with is that first idea of what you pushes back. Now, I believe that many students see their assignments as something that they have to do, something they're kind of being pushed towards in a way in order to get their degree. There could be kind of other push factors as well, such as parental pressure and, the pressure to achieve a certain grade, to do their parents proud because they spent a lot of money and perhaps in some cases send them overseas. And, degrees are really expensive at the moment. So sometimes students come up with that sort of resistance because of the burden, because of the burden of expectations and these pressures that are upon them. But also, I suppose there's a belief, maybe leading on from school days, that, assignments are something you just need to get through. A number of students have said to me, you kind of mug all the information from your textbooks, sit your exam, do well in it, and then you can forget about everything after that. Now, that's not the approach that we really want to take at university level, especially in the UK. And of course, this might be the same in other countries as well. What you're looking to achieve is not just to kind of engage with, these kind of academic conversations around specific topics and subject areas, but also to kind of develop your analytical skills for the future, your presentation, your communication skills. How do you persuade other people around to your way of thinking? How do you present a compelling presentation? These are all skills that you are developing at university. And it is much more powerful if you are able to kind of engage in them in a way that kind of feels lighter, because like I said, if you feel burdened, you're going to instinctively want to push back on it. So how can you achieve this kind of lightness when it comes to academic work? The first is to be kind of curious about the subject area and be willing to take risks and have fun with the topics, play around with them a little bit. In fact, it's very often this kind of stress of having to achieve a certain grade that means that students are unwilling to take risks. They'll come, during consultations and say, what do I have to do to get a first? And they want very prescriptive instructions. Now, that is not really how it happens in academic writing at university level. And very often it is about a little bit of creativity and understanding how to kind of apply, aspects of your argument, sources and evidence that you found in ways that are right for a particular question, for the way that a question is framed, but also in ways that align with your personal interests. In terms of criticality, now, the other thing I wanted to say is that many students believe that because someone who publishes work in an academic field is an expert, therefore I'm going to quote or cite this expert's work as evidence for an argument that I'm trying to make. Well, this is not wrong as such, there are ways that you can further develop your criticality. So when you're quoting an academic's work to agree with it, you're not necessarily engaging very critically in terms of the research project that they have undertaken or the kind of argument that they're making. And it's really important to be careful about how someone else's work and someone else's argument might relate to your specific question. And the thing is, these experts are not answering the same question as you. So there are going to be some elements that are kind of useful, some that are less useful, and kind of other nuances in between as well. One way that James's formula here is really useful is when he says call out the objection, concern, or rebuttal. So rebuttal, I think, is quite strong, and I would encourage you to call out the limitations. And this is insofar as how a particular study or argument relates to your argument. It's not that, someone else's work is wrong in any way. It's just maybe certain aspects are more or less relevant to your own work. So it's worth thinking about that. So take, for example, you are assigned a topic to work on that is on business and the transport industry. Now, I don't have a kind of fully laid out question in mind, but those are the main elements that you might need to deal with. So it's worth then acknowledging that, if you're kind of reading articles that are just about business, well, then there are ways that you might be able to apply it to the transport industry, but then within the transport industry, there are kind of other aspects outside of business that you would have to think of as well. So one example is that it might be worth thinking about the role of transport as an equitable public service that enables users to fulfill their needs. So for example, this might refer to their ability to access work, their ability to access education, healthcare, and social activities. And of course, access to social activities is something that can't be underestimated for its effect on mental well-being. Whereas, if your argument were just to be focused on, for example, maximizing profits because of the kind of business consideration when it comes to the transport industry, then it doesn't consider those kind of finer points about, well, what about the role of transport as a kind of benefit to humanity in general, that sort of wider question. So it's worth thinking about how to kind of balance the business element of it with what exactly does transport fulfill in our lives. So when you're engaging with academic arguments around kind of business and the transport industry, it's just worth thinking about those other elements of kind of why do we need transport in the first place? And why actually is transport often a public service rather than a private one? So I hope that's useful, and do join me again tomorrow for day 42. Goodbye.